Welcome to Let's Talk Health, powered by VitifyHealth. I'm your host, Miles Wingfield. Today, we're joined by an innovative leader in clinical research whose career bridges established organizations, fast-growing startups, and his own entrepreneurial ventures. He has held key roles at Eligo Health Research and Massive Bio, driving forward initiatives that expand access and improve trial efficiency. Beyond these roles, he has also founded impactful companies, including the Clinical Research Learning Network, aimed at educating, connecting, and empowering stakeholders across the research ecosystem. And with that, please welcome Joshua Weber. Josh, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Miles. How are you? Thank you
Uh,
for
uh,
having me on.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And like I said, I like to get straight into it. So the first thing I really want to ask you is what drew you into clinical research and what continues to keep you passionate about working in this space?
Yeah, so I originally went to school studying pre-med. So I wanted to be a physician
Hmm.
assistant. That was really my goal, I guess. And then right out of college, I kind of stumbled upon it really, which I think a lot of people do. But so I had met somebody who had worked in the industry, and one thing led to another, and kind of fell into it. But it also allowed me to kind of use my medical background, and then I've also always been just kind of obsessed with like business and entrepreneurial stories and all that good stuff. So it kind of, and clinical research really is the marriage between the two of those things, is really the
Right.
business of medicine. Um, and honestly, just at the end of the day, is really just also helping people. Maybe not like directly with hands-on patient care, but at least through an indirect route, I'm still able to kind of fulfill my wants and needs to help people in some way. So that was kind of what drew me into it and kind of keeps me here to this day.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really interesting. As you mentioned, you used to be pre-med. I feel like clinical research is often a former pre-med student's landing ground. That's how a lot of people slid into this industry. I share similar sentiments, also being pre-med, so that makes a lot of sense. And one thing I really wanted to draw attention to is you have that banner in the top right of your screen. You have that Clinical Research Learning Network. I know you're really passionate, proud of that, and I would just love to know what inspired that, what is it, and what are your goals with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, kind of like I said, I myself kind of stumbled upon the industry, and that was
Hmm.
really kind of the spark or idea that kicked it off in the first place. And I was like, the more people that I met in the industry, the more people I realized kind of also fell into it in the same way that I did.
Yeah.
So I kind of took that idea and just kind of expanded it even further. So, wanted to create a platform where clinical research education, not only just of the industry as a whole, but also like patients, clinical sites. I've been in the industry for about 6 years now, so getting to meet a bunch of different kind of stakeholders and different people with different kind of roles in the industry led me to kind of realize that everybody just kind of stumbles upon it in one way or the other, and nobody's really taught about clinical research as a career path or even as an industry as a whole. So I wanted to create this platform to be as accessible as possible, to be as low cost as possible. It's translatable into multiple languages, so it's not, just confined to English speaking, countries. And really that's kind of, I founded it about a year and a half ago, and it's just kind of taken on a life of its own kind of beyond me.
Yeah.
And it's like 43 different countries, I think, at this point. So pretty
Amazing.
incredible with the power of LinkedIn, the power of the internet, and just the, partnerships and network I've been able to build with it. But yeah, that's really my goal, is to just kind of make the education piece as accessible as possible. And so yeah, that's really it.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of continue to grow from there.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think, like, as you mentioned, making education as accessible as possible is always a key thing, and especially in clinical research, where it's not the most mainstream industry, right? Like you mentioned, everybody's pre-med, everybody's something else, and kind of falls into clinical research. So I think what you're doing by making it really accessible, helping people gain career paths, helping these patients even, right, gain a better understanding of, okay, what is a clinical research trial? What am I getting myself into? What are the pros, the cons, the downsides, the potential risks, and the potential benefits of joining. I think it's really amazing. And one thing you mentioned in that answer was that you use LinkedIn a lot to grow your network. And obviously, you and I met through LinkedIn, and you mentioned the power of it. So, what advice would you give to people looking to grow their own business or even just grow their own personal brand on by using LinkedIn?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was going to say, you don't have to have a business. You don't have to have,
Hmm.
an entrepreneurial company just to get kind of yourself out there and share your story or connect with people. And I know a lot of people kind of take a backseat to LinkedIn and they just think it's more of a social network to kind of interact with people, just like you would on Facebook. But it really does, I think, if you kind of work on building your personal brand, like what are you interested in? What do you think that, the people that you're connected with in your industry would be interested in? Like how I kind of just decided to take the leap and start posting stuff is I took like articles from Healthcare Brew, which is like a, monthly subscription basically, that can be, just basically post articles in the industry or in the healthcare industry, like two to
Hmm.
three times a week, and then just kind of took that, analyzed them, and then just started making posts out of it and content, and just kind of organically grew my own kind of personal brand, my own, personal story, if you will. And so even like a simple idea like that can just kind of help you grow your network. And even if it's not like posting things regularly, that just kind of helps with visibility. But even just, don't not being afraid to like reach out to people and just message them. Because at the end of the day, what I found is as long as you're not being like pushy or, like too needy with things, I think that people are more willing to just talk to you and help you. I think a lot of people are more altruistic than people give them credit for. As long as you're being respectful of their time, I think that, more people are willing to help you and talk to you. And then it just kind of grows organically from there. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I really share a similar sentiment in terms of LinkedIn. At Vitify Health, we use it a lot to, just get through doors that you never would have been able to without it, right? I've spoken to pharmaceutical CEOs, site network CEOs, just, you know, people higher up in this industry that I never would have had the opportunity to speak with. And, yeah, again, like you mentioned, I think if you can talk to these people just in a non-robotic and just say, hey, I'm a person, I want to learn more, or I have this interesting thing I'm working on, or I would just love to have a conversation with you. I think more people are actually open to that than you might think. And a lot of people are going to ignore you. A lot of people might say no, but that's okay, because as long as you're speaking with the right people. And obviously, like I mentioned, we met through LinkedIn, and I just kind of want to talk about a little bit about Vitify Health, right? We
Yeah.
really care about the access to clinical research, similar to we take a different approach, more so matching the patients, right, using the AI, getting them in the trials, while your access comes from in the form of education. And I know we have a lot of alignments, and I would love for you to just speak on some of the alignments that you've seen between what you're working on and what we are working on here at Vitify Health.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's kind of why I decided to reach out to you in the first place
Hmm.
when I saw what you guys were building. Because I think our missions are very well aligned, I think we're both trying to break down those barriers to, both the patient education side and then also just the industry in general. And that was, a lot of those synergies kind of are coming naturally to us, in the way
Hmm.
that we work together or that our missions are just aligned in general. Because I kind of just recognize that you're trying to break down barriers to give people access to clinical trials, and I'm trying to give them the education to make those informed decisions, for themselves. So really, when you put those two things together, then we should be able to reach, a lot of those underserved populations, and as many people as we possibly can, obviously, is the goal. To get more people access to better treatments is really what we're trying to do at the end of the day. So
Yeah, 100%. And you also mentioned those underserved communities that we both really want to reach. So getting to why is it important for underrepresented communities and diverse communities to be included in clinical research? And what are actionable things that the clinical research industry can actually do to make this a reality rather than just a buzzword?
yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with trust. So
Hmm.
if you can kind of build up the trust in those communities, whether, that be doing community outreach events or just kind of taking like a more natural and human approach to education, and, and just kind of dismaying the stigmas around clinical trials, I think, which I know a lot of that is kind of baked in historically, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it it, it doesn't hurt to just kind of get out there and educate people, about what clinical trials really can do for them, as a positive thing. And it really is about rallying around a community, to kind of help out your community and help out, the people that you care about and love and are connected with. So I think really just trying to do the best to, kind of build up the education around that, will help build that trust in the long run. And then, obviously at the end of the day, we'll end up enrolling more people in clinical trials. So
100%.
that's both kind of the approaches that we're trying to do, right? Like this. you're trying to make it easier and simpler to have people get access, whether they know about clinical trials or not. They have that option and availability there. And then, on my end with Clinical Research Learning Network, we're just trying to, give them the education and make those
Right.
impactful decisions. Yep.
And I think that that education piece is so important. It goes hand in hand with the trust piece because if you are educated about exactly what you're getting yourself into, it's a lot easier to trust that process rather than just taking a doctor's word for, it, especially like, as you mentioned, given all the historical things that have happened to a lot of these communities, right? And just to shift the conversation a little bit, I want to talk more about, what it takes to, I guess, build your own company, what it takes to build your own just anything really, just build anything in life. So you've worked at larger organizations like Eligo Health Research and Massive Bio. I would love for you to compare your experience working at these larger clinical research adjacent companies versus building your own.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think that, everybody, no matter whether you want to start your own company or not, I think you can kind of take the approach of being what would be called an intrapreneur, within a company, which is kind of the what I've been trying to do at kind of a lot of the companies that I worked at. And the majority of companies that I have worked at have been like startups or earlier companies, I guess, that kind of allow me to test out ideas and are really open to kind of employees kind of helping share and build kind of a piece of the company as a whole. So, I kind of have taken those attitudes and actions and just kind of applied it to my own company that I've built with Clinical Research Learning Network. And, I mean, obviously that's my own company, so I can kind of test and do a bunch of things without anybody kind of telling me otherwise. But it really
Yeah.
is like a trial and error thing,
Hmm.
kind of testing as much as you can, but at the same time taking what I've learned at the larger companies and what works, what doesn't work, and then applying that to my own company. So
Yeah, 100%. It's a lot of, as you said, trial and error. It's the learning curve is extreme. So, but you learn so much that I would always encourage somebody if they have an idea to at least try to pursue it. But my last question that I really wanted to ask you is, what piece of advice would you give to someone looking to break into clinical research, whether that's, with their own entrepreneurial venture, whether that's just even as a research coordinator, just to get their hands dirty in the clinical research? What would be your biggest piece of advice?
yeah, I would say honestly, just kind of focus on the networking,
Hmm.
try to connect with as many people in the industry as you can, whether you know them or not, or through somebody. And like I said, just have a very human conversation with them. Hey, I just want 5 minutes of your time. I won't take up too much of your time, but I just want to really learn about, from you as somebody who's been in the industry, like what can you, kind of tell me to navigate it. And then I would also obviously focus on like certificates, at least like base level
Hmm.
kind of foundational knowledge. That way you get like more of a well-rounded idea of the industry. And then you can kind of pick what you're kind of interested in or are you interested in data analytics? Are you interested in project management? Do you want to go work with patients directly? So then you can kind of design your career around that. But I would say it all just starts with networking. So
Okay, yeah, I agree as well. That's one of my main goals is to, as I establish myself, is to network as well as I can. And with that, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have today. This has been Let's Talk Health, powered by Vitify Health. If you're interested in learning more about Joshua Weber and his impactful work or the work we do here at Vitify Health, feel free to check us out in the links in the description. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Josh.
yep, thank you.